Okay, howdy there. Uh, I'm trying to fish out ideas, and I came across one this afternoon that I came up with in my early 20s. uh, First, to give you a little background on what this is I was doing a search for this picture of uh, what was that guy's name? Buster Keaton from Sherlock Jr. Uh, I don't know how many of you remember that, have seen that movie and know that scene where he doubles up on a motorcycle and then his partner falls off it, and well, I don't want to spoil it for you, no. But anyway, there's uh, sort of made me remember this one I came up with years ago. A character I called the PyroMoron because he keeps having little accidents with fire, and I probably need to come up with a better name for it. Thinking about it now, because it's been better than 20 or 25 years since I first came up with it. But when I came up with it at the time, what initially inspired me was I think what it was is I didn't know how to drive. I had just started smoking, and there's this uh, Buster Keaton marathon on one of the cable channels, and there was this local filmmaker. I can't remember his name, but there's this local filmmaker who had this penchant for shooting black and white silent films. With This was in the early '90s, before everything was going digital, and he is I can't remember his name, but uh, he had a penchant for making tributes to the slapstick films of the 1920s. Everything was silent and black and white, and uh, I had this one guy with these circular granny glasses or whatever they were, and they're always really funny and really heartfelt and everything. And so anyway, I pretty much came up with several ideas, and I think I'm gonna throw out three of them. One tonight, and then two more over the next couple of nights. And the first one is I call it Sunday afternoon, and this was it's basically that we have the character. He's coming home from work, and I have to say another thing that inspired me for this was they were playing these radio ads at the time for learn how to play the piano this easily and everything. So I was thinking about different types of piano music at the time. Uh, okay, so back on track. Basically we've got the character. It's he comes home. He's dressed in this Sunday best, and he's walking up to the front door of his apartment, and he's unlocking his front door, and he's turning a he's been walking home from church as he's uh, and he walks up to his apartment, and he turns around, and they're playing this dramatic music like dun 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 dun, like a sense of triumph as they're showing different angles of his motorcycle, and he just sort of goes in, changes out of his Sunday best into his just t-shirt and jeans and whatever, and then you hear sort of a jazzy piano music as he's cruising along the streets on his motorcycle, just, you know, happy as can be, enjoying his Sunday afternoon on a motorcycle. And stops for gas. While he stops for gas, he notices an attractive woman bending over, and while he's noticing that, he looks over, and the camera's doing a close-up of the gas tank. And if you've ever owned a motorcycle, you can relate to this. But uh, while, uh, while he's distracted, he accidentally spills some gasoline on his hand. And anyway, he puts the pump back, and he gets back on his bike, and the next thing we see him pulling into a public park, and he sits down. I'd like to think it's the vision I had at the time was sort of for a lakefront or something, or maybe down by the river or something. It, but it's a busy park full of families and children. They're out in the park enjoying their Sunday afternoon, and he sits down by the shoreline and starts reading his book. And he, with the hand that got soaked in the gasoline, he pulls out a cigarette and lights it. And while he's reading his book and flicking a cigarette, you know, just as peaceful as can be, at some point his hand catches fire, and the camera starts tapping the high keys, as he's, you know, not really paying attention to his hand being on fire. He's going, and then he looks and he realizes his hand is on fire, and so he throws his cigarette into his book, uses that for a bookmark, and closes the book, and he starts going like this, and you know, trying to put the flame out. And the perspective, it's people in the park start seeing this guy sitting there going like this, and they're not seeing him from in front. They can't see that his hand is on fire. They're seeing him from behind, and from their perspective, they all think that he's playing with himself. And so at that point, police officer, a 20s era police officer with the, you know, the wool tunic and the pith helmet, shows up, and everybody points, and he runs over and grabs the guys, and you know, you see like they do in the 20s movies, you know, you see the flash on the screen, my hand is on fire, and the cop says, I'm sure it is. And that's pretty much my idea for the PyroMoron in Sunday afternoon. And I've got it's pretty much a visual piece, and I've got a couple more that I'm going to try and talk about over the next 2 nights, and hopefully that'll fill the space for my veda challenge. And anyway, I'm Absolutely Al, and that has been my veda challenge for Monday, April 11th, in the year of our Lord 2016. Peace out.